And then, like,
So we did that and then charged a lot of money for it and it became lucrative.
And then, like, the
waist. The tiny waist. Yep.
And, like, the necks being skinny. And,
oh my God, it's so different, right?
Yeah. Like, so it's every culture hit it. Like,
has their own, like, weird thing that they monetize.
And, like...
And made people, like, especially women,
yeah.
right? And I say that, I should actually take that back. Because I say that, we have 2 sons. Yeah. And it's, like, really easy, especially within 90s diet culture phenomenon, to say, like, oh, we want women to be skinny and attractive for their men and all these things. But then also, like, when we look at, like, men, like, they need to be, like, buff.
Muscular.
Yeah. And
I feel less bad about them, though.
Why do we feel less bad about them?
I have a son and I feel less bad.
Is it because it hasn't gone on as long for them? Like, we haven't quite hit that peak for them?
I think it's because they have less, like, stipulations to meet in order to be successful. Like, I feel like in order for a woman...
They won't be the caregiver, right?
Yeah, I feel like
in majority of situations.
The moms that stayed home for years and years were never given the, like, credit for what they actually do.
Yeah.
Like, 100%. There are studies that come out and show, like, they should make more or whatever. But, like, for men, that's, like, super protected because of government and every different, like,
facet.
Men are providers. They're the strong ones. Yes. They're this. And I think that's why we get the, like, conflicting things because, like, oh, women shouldn't be, like, muscular.
And it's like, okay, have you seen the girls nowadays? Holy shit.
I'm sorry, but I'm like...
I'm a lesbian. They look good.
I look really good. I could never be, like, spray tan in a bikini with, like...
I would be spray tan.
But the only reason I could never do that is because I don't have that ambition to grow the muscles that are physically here.
Yes,
like, yeah. Like, if I could, maybe I would. But, like, for me, in my heart, I'm like...
Yes.
Well, that's a lot of work. And I would rather just be...
Okay. Now, going into being a mom. We have very, I think, different, like, diet educational backgrounds. Mine was from a grandma who was, like, anti-fat. If you eat that, it's fattening, even though, like, now we have the whole, like, low-carb thing, which
my family was more like, we're going to eat what we can.
What we can.
Yeah.
And then when she got into the pregnancy portion, where she was going to have a baby, she went very vegan, which was very popular at the time.
2014.
14, yeah.
15?
Yeah.
2015.
And it was very, like, that was the way to be healthy. Tell me about that.
So, I remember, like, right before Eric and I got married, I had a really close friend. I still do. She's still, like, one of my besties. I love her. She's also not vegan anymore. Her and I are, like...
Going former vegans.
We're, recovering vegans.
And that's not to say they're carnivores or anything.
No, but like we're recovering in our own way because we might have had a little bit of eating disorders.
Yeah, because social contract tells you that that's the best way to be, so you become obsessed.
We're recovering vegans because we went to veganism to cure our
to be healthier
eating disorders. And to be healthier,
and then to just put you back in the same place.
But then, like, companies preyed on us.
Yes.
Right. So when we did the research, like, it was limited to, like, what was popular and what was trending, and those were the first answers we got, and we took what was hit home for us.
Available.
We're just like, oh, well, like, if you do this, then, like, a few more cows aren't going to die. And we're just like, hell yeah. Fuck killing animals. Aww. It's barbaric.
Yes.
Also, like birth control things, and, like, that, like, hit home in a lot of different aspects. And before that, I was, like, not a mom, and I was like, well, if I just don't eat meat, and that's fine, because red meat never sat well with me.
Yep.
Dairy never sat well with me, but that's also because I grew up with, like...
almond milk.
No.
Or cheap low-fat milk.
Low-fat milk. Yeah. And, like, my mom would give me cereal before school, and I would miss a lot of school because...
Yeah, it's a lot of sugar
I would take
and no good stuff.
Yeah, and I would get stomach aches, and I would miss school, and I couldn't finish things. And like, but that's also, like, the anxiety of living in that kind of home.
Scarcity.
Scarcity. Like, we were not well off. Like, my parents did what they could with what they had.
Yep.
And the government supplied us with things that weren't necessarily, like, beneficial to us mentally and physically.
And we didn't know that back then either.
And we didn't know
which
that.
is even worse. Yep.
Yeah. So it was like a combo.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, getting pregnant, I was like, oh my god, like, I need to do my body, like, a huge cleanse and make sure that I'm giving this child, like, everything that I can to be a smart and, like, mentally stable human and
to grow into, like, the person you want them to
be. To defeat the odds that I have genetically.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because that's what you do. Like,
yes.
You can only change genetics.
You only want to do better for your kids.
Like, and when you're pregnant, you have the opportunity to kind of change your genetics in a little bit. Maybe I'm crazy, but, like...
No, I think you can.
When you
adjust.
Yeah, you can adjust your genetics and, like, give more, like, benefits. Right?
I agree.
So that was always my goal, to, like, try my best and give this baby, because before I had Forrest, I had a miscarriage.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I was like, I've never had a miscarriage.
Devastated. Devastation.
No one I knew had talked about it.
We didn't talk about it. Nobody talked about it.
I kept it to myself.
Yes.
Because, like, no one asked. Like, my mom talked about it.
No, they don't talk about that.
No one talked about it. So I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me?
Yep.
So that was a huge part of me being, like, vegan and being like...
Worrying. You're like, what's the healthiest thing of the time? What is everyone saying is the best thing that I can do healthiest for my kid?
All I ate before I had my miscarriage was, like, the only meat I ate was chicken. And then I had my miscarriage and I was like, I'm cutting meat. Because obviously there's a hormone disruptor in it.
Yep.
That maybe it's affecting me.
Yep.
And I got pregnant. So that helped me, like, ride that, like...
Train of this is the right way to do it.
But also, I was eating whole foods.
So I just listened to a podcast.
And I was so broke. Like, Eric was like, how are we going to feed?
It's so true. I was just listening to podcasts about this, and it was like personal trainers. Maybe I'll be able to stitch it. But, like, the guy was like, God, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, all of us personal trainers are like, God, the vegans are, like, the healthiest people out there. All the people we're training. And come, 10, 15 years later, into the late 2000s, early 2020s, it's like, the vegans are the most unhealthy. And it's like, because back in the 90s, early 2000s, when you were
we
vegans,
didn't have substitutes.
There was not substitutes, there was not processed food. You ate fruits, vegetables, and that was it. If you were a vegetarian, you were maybe even better off because you ate fruit, vegetables, and then maybe a little bit of good eggs, good milks, that kind of thing, good cheeses. And then all of a sudden, the big business was like, I'm jumping in. I'm going to make the cheap processed food.
Because in order to make it more profitable, but also more accessible.
Accessible. That's true.
Because some people can afford the, like, organic
because it's very expensive. And then they did that. Yeah. And then you have a lot of vegans now who are really unhealthy. And you look at...
Because they can't afford to be a vegan. There are...
Oh my God, it's so expensive.
They're, like... Financially, there's upper class, middle class, and lower class. Mm-hmm. And with diet, upper class, 100%. Middle class, lower class. 100%. And I feel like veganism, like, would essentially be higher class
if you do it right.
If you have the ability to do it,
no process,
non-processed.
Yeah.
Like, it became really expensive for me to eat that way. And I was like, holy shit. And I'm doing all this research, and I'm like, I feel good, but the amount that I need to intake.
Because you have to you have the calories to live, right?
Yeah, and then I'm pregnant, and then I'm like, well, I need the juicer machine, and I need a different machine to, like, give me
and then
the
you juice, and you're getting in less calories from what you're getting, right? God, yeah. It's crazy. Like,
and, as, like, a middle class, low class, like, person, like, that was not accessible for me.
No. And even now,
especially
with
kids.
I
wanted it.
Yeah. And it's crazy, like, now thinking about, like, and then I say this all the time. It's like veganism, low carb, high fat. It doesn't really matter.
It's all part of the diet culture.
Oh my gosh.
Because so many people took veganism as their way
of life.
To just, I don't have an eating disorder.
Yeah.
I'm vegan, and there's all these blockades in the way because there's another way of us to like mentally be like, well, it's not my fault. Which is so fucked up.
It is. It's fucked up.
Because we are allowing us, like, a higher power to dictate our eating disorder.
And also, like, how we feel about ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's part of it, too, is, like, when you look in that social culture, it's like, as social media came up, it's like, oh, if you're vegan, like, you are more just, or you are better than thou, right? And it's like now you kind of see that opposite end sometimes. Like, oh, if you only eat meat, you're better.
Yeah.
Like, and it's kind of like, how do we find a balance? Because looking like 200 years ago, you know, pre-date the Industrial Revolution and all those things, as long as you were eating whole food. But like, even whole food now is like poisoned with all these things that they spray.
Pesticides. Because we have to defeat all of our climate change and our winters. And
it's like, so weird.
It's like we can't get what we essentially need 24/7.
But do we?
Because the way we changed our world.
But do we even know what we really need anymore? I think
no,
it's like
because
weird thing,
again,
right?
Like a part of me is like a super like, well, like climate change changed our food.
Mm-hmm.
But
or how we get our food.
There's no answer to how we're going to receive what we need.
No, it's true. I think, I don't know. I feel like sometimes...
We make a lot of space for a lot of things, and then we also allow judgment to control our entire world.
Oh, we love that, though. Because judgment is, when you are judged by people, like other people, it's easy for you to say, like, whether
if you're too skinny when we're children, it's because...
in the 90s, so true.
You could look beautiful and skinny, but then behind those people that were like...
Nowadays, you can't be skinny.
They were abused.
That is true.
Like, think about it now.
You can't... Yes, but you can't... Like, even now, like, if you're too skinny, you're not buff enough. If you're too buff, you're not eating enough.
Yeah.
It's like there's always something...
Too critical.
Profit is behind all...
Oh, 100%.
100%.
And all these companies are like, what can we do to make money?
Now, as a millennial mom...
SlimFast is like... We're going to be in charge of all those people that are skinny.
Oh my God. They gaslighted us, SlimFast. They gaslighted us. Okay, the real question is, as millennial moms, what are we doing different with our kids to not make them feel like they need to eat SnackWell, disgustingly tasted snacks, and only SlimFast, and also not get fat and unhealthy, right? Like, we want them to be healthy, sustainable, live long lives. We want them to be fertile, to have our grandbabies, all of those things. What are you doing, and what are we doing?
Because there's a difference between being healthy and being, like, above where your body should be.
Yes, correct.
And I think that was really
There's
hard.
overdoing it. There's a thing
I think that's hard because, like, you go to a doctor and they have these, like, statistics that you need to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not ever going to be the thing. Like,
no.
They tell your baby's in the 80th percentile. You're just like, oh my god, my baby's short, my baby's fat, my baby's too skinny, my baby's feral.